Hey, you guys. I think I've actually, had a chance to shake your hands or chat or take pictures with every single one of you. So that worked out really good too. That was like organized. Sorry, we had to like rush people through 15 seconds. Boom, boom. But thank you to the committee who is like awesome and did such an amazing job. Thank you guys who are all here, and we wouldn't be here unless you were here, which is great because I'm still doing this for a living, which is crazy. Although we're handing those reins over as fast as we can. I heard the Hannah and Eric line was longer than my line. I was like, trouble. That's trouble right there. Also, Richard and I are going to focus on we're going to not do Q&A immediately because we have some A to go over first before you have your Qs. So you may not have a Q after we give you some of these A's. We're going to talk about Riven because that seems to be a good topic to chat about. And then, your questions can go anywhere, but this is like the fun group to reveal the Riven stuff too. I gotta say, you guys are the ones who give us good feedback. So we don't want them. We don't want the bad crowd. We want the crowd that's going to go, oh yeah, this is cool. So, also want to shout out to Starry Expanse peeps. We're talking. Yeah. So it wasn't that long ago that we said, hey, you guys do amazing work. Now give it back. And they very graciously said, happy to help. It's a big job. They knew that, but we've managed to use what we can, and they're awesome. And without going into details, there's some fun nods to that in what's coming up in Riven. And you don't have a clue what that means, but you'll see when you play the game. You won't see with the stuff we show probably, but you'll get it when you play the game. Now, I'm going to start this off by saying one thing, and this is what drives Richard and I. In the movies, when at the end of the movies where they go, this was based on fictional and nothing was lives were purely coincidental, blah, 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 protect themselves. That is complete opposite of what Riven is. Riven is real. And when we talk about Riven, it's because we're looking at documents and translating more, getting more info about what happened. And the first iteration of Riven, the OG Riven, was our best attempt at telling that story with what knowledge we had at the time. Now, it just so happens that in the intervening years, we've gotten a lot more information. And a lot of it was right, and little bits were wrong. And a lot of it, we can just dive a little deeper in. Okay, so we're going to show you some things that are related to that kind of stuff. Now, the big picture is this, and this is so much fun because we're watching, the comments on people talking about us remaking Riven, and it's everything from, oh my goodness, I hope they don't change it at all. I hope it's exactly like the original Riven, to the same people saying, oh, but gosh, I wish I could forget what I knew about it because I sure would like to experience it again. Right? So, okay, we'll do both of those. This is Riven. This is not a sequel. This is not, something different. It is just new discoveries of Riven that you'll get there and it'll feel familiar, and also it'll be like, oh, I don't know how to do this. This is something new. So Richard and I have done a lot of archaeological work. And one of the things we've done is gone and explored some of the sites in New Mexico that, we with some of the missed money, we bought all that land, millions of acres in New Mexico. And we've been, digging, trenching, warp skeletons, that kind of thing. The stuff that came through and landed in, obviously, in those areas. So one thing in particular is kind of cool that we've managed to dig up and bring back. And we brought it, which is really cool. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to explain to you what it is. Figured out what it is, and you guys can see that. It's kind of distressed bent. It's like it welded at some point. Put it down somewhere. I don't know what. Yeah. Anyway, I'll give you some info, and then we'll show you some more stuff. But this exemplifies what we're talking about, because what we realized is this is after Atris and Catherine fell into the fissure and realized that the book would not be destroyed as they had planned. Jen was left, and he was left with a hole in the ground that was problematic. We all know in Riven, when we get there, what he did, but this is more detail, because what we discovered is that what we postulate because of this and other things is that he very quickly began to seal up the fissure. It was dangerous. He didn't understand it. And the first thing Gen does to things like that is conquer that. So he did. And he did it with his brute force methodology, which is, give me some steel plates and I'm gonna put them over this thing. And it didn't work real well. Stuff started falling through. Partially because he didn't understand the starry expanse. That was an abnormality. And those of you who played Riven know it's different. Those of you who played Mist, it's like Atris didn't really understand it. It's something unique and different. Jen went to the drawing board and said, well, that starry expanse has something to do with the fabric of how linking works, books work, and who knows. But again, in his brute force method, he decided that he would go to the books and use techniques from the books. So what we, again, postulate is that he knew about the Garo Hepti, and he thought maybe that there was that one thing could be applied to another thing, and that's what he applied to metal plates, is stuff that normally would be written into books, complicated dunny symbols that were compound and had, in some cases, boilerplate meaning for certain books in Dunny, they would include certain Go-Hefty characters that would always make things safe or make things sound. And so, again, stripped one, put it on a plate, welded it in, and or at least started welding it in and realized it helped. It didn't solve the problem because this one, the edges look welded, but they didn't get a chance to finish it. It looks like it bent in and fell through, but it worked enough that he said, okay, I'm on to something. And so, again, conjecture, but now we know a little bit more, and that affects how we look at Riven and how we are adjusting things in the updated version. So that mindset, by the way, of looking through Riven and documents and asking why, and would this really be this way, or would this be this way? And that is where we live, and Richard lives all the time, because this is all in his head more than anyone at this point. So with that in mind, we have a little treat. We're going to show you some very early images of things from the new Riven. Now, you guys got to walk through stuff that was very similar to the OG this morning with Eric and Hannah. What we're going to show you are things that might be different. And we're not going to show you a video. We're just going to show you screenshots, and we want to intrigue you. We want you to realize that, oh, I recognize that, but I don't recognize that. And we are kind of featuring the things that might have changed a little rather than the things that have stayed the same, just to give you a little different feel. Fair? Everybody good for that? All right. This is the background when Atris fell into the fissure. We didn't test it. Don't look. All right. Richard's going to explain everything about this. Now, we did decide to start with one where you wouldn't recognize anything. So there's a few, maybe icon that looks iconic, but you probably don't even know where that is in Riven. And we're not going to tell you, I don't think. You want to go into any little details of there? So, again, this one is more demonstrates that there's a lot there that you recognize, and you guys are all going, wait, but what about that thing? Yeah, exactly. Again, more information we've received. We realized we had to tweak some of the design of certain things. One of the things that was very evident as we dove back in is that Gen's particular style and architectural sense was very different than the inhabitants of this world. And some of that was blurred a little in the OG. It's not going to be blurred in the new one. Probably trying to place yourself like, wait, what is that? Where is that? Okay. This is yeah, lots of little things. This is so fun, by the way, because this is like Richard and I were talking about like Star Wars, because when Star Wars came out, we both saw it a lot, and then it was going to be like 80 years before the next Star Wars came out. So what happened is you go to the store and find, what was it, Starlog magazine, and maybe, I mean, they would tease you with clips on the front like, no, Star Wars, find the new thing is, we've got first pictures, and you'd open up and it'd be like one tiny little picture, and you'd study it. Like, oh my gosh. So we were going to do that to you guys, just one little picture, but it's just too much fun, and you're like the good crowd to show this stuff too. So, so the idea of plating is something that we didn't realize until we took the other look at Riven and started reading a lot more of the documents. And this is one example of it. And again, I have to say that these images are not, it's gray box in a lot of those, is what we call it, where we haven't, there's no texture. We're just mocking it up and seeing if it feels like what our understanding of the documents say, the sizing and scale and everything feels right as we go through these. So it's not final form, just here to tease you, and, you know, and it's really cool, by the way. And I think Eric mentioned this morning. I don't know if it was Eric or Hannah, but it's playable now. Like, we decided that we wanted to make it playable early on, even if the images weren't done. You could walk through the gray box version and experience it. So we are doing that. QA is running through it already to make sure that we keep it playable, to make sure that we can test early and see what people think, see how the responses are, that we have time to tweak things and adjust things that we need to. Little different, yeah. You can probably postulate what some of that is, right? And it makes sense. You see how we're starting to think like, well, if that was there, then at some point maybe there was one of these that should have been here, like, sure enough, and then he didn't need that, and then anyway, there you go. So is this a good way for us to do Riven? Okay, all right. All right. The pressure was on you guys, because if all of a sudden there was a bunch of boos, we'd have been like, oh, great. We're ending with this one. We're ending with that one. Now you can see that's one that you may feel like, oh, I'm just going to play Riven. I'm going to get to Riven, and I'm going to get to the Fissure Plateau, and it's going to be just, oh, wait a minute. Some very similar things and some different things, but it's things that we realized narrative-wise and from our information over the years. Oh, these are things that inform the story a little bit more. You'll learn about the people a little bit more, and hopefully you'll be very entertained. Right. All right. That's what we have of me talking. And if I keep talking, I'm just going to reveal secrets because I'm known as the loose cannon around here. So instead of that, yeah, instead of that, why don't we get to a Q&A and we'll see how that goes. And it's been a long day. We'll see if you guys have any questions. We will entertain any questions. And I think Kelly's going to get questions from the internet at the same time. So I may not answer every question, but you've got a good group here. I have to say this as well. I'll start it off this way. We are looking at this as we were talking last night or yesterday. Riven is sacred. But what that means to us is there's a fine line between honoring things that are sacred and being dogmatic about things that are sacred. And sometimes sacred means you adjust it as you get more information and it fits in with how things are now. And I think that's how we're looking at it. And that's how we jumped into this. It's like we are not doing changes lightly. Richard and I talk about reasons over and over again. And if there's not a good reason, a reason that you could ask us about, and we can't like go, oh yeah, you want to know why? We'll tell you why. If there's not a reason, then we don't do it. So this is not a frivolous exercise for us. A lot of thought has gone into this. We want you to know that. And one of the things that was interesting is early on, I'm going to give a shout out to my brother, Robin. He jumped in early as a design consultant. And Robin is really good at looking at documents and going, whoa, look at this crazy thing. And so some of the things were influenced that way early on as well. So we had like some fun sessions early on. He was involved. And then Richard and I kind of have done stuff for a long time, but Richard is the keeper of this and the director of this and has this locked in his brain, much to his chagrin. He doesn't sleep at night. He just thinks about, why did we change that? Oh yeah, that's right. Reasons for everything. And I have to tell you as well, our team is so excited. We've been through a lot of stuff and we've built a lot of things, but this is like really, really exciting project. And we went in it with a little bit of trepidation, but now that we're in it and we're seeing it, it's like you guys are gonna absolutely love it. I know you will. All right. So I think I said everything that, answered general questions. Open for questions, please. There's microphones. I think you guys want people to line up. Is that what I heard? Is that what Jeff said? Okay. Kelly's doing that. She's going to come up and have a microphone up here to ask questions as well. And I think she's going to, you want to pick who's next, and you can do all that, and we'll answer. Yes. Yes. I know. It's the first revelation.
Hello. Oh, it is. I'm sorry to steal your question. For both of you, with all of these changes, I'm curious, like, what percentage harkens back to maybe ideas that you originally had back in the day that you couldn't incorporate versus what is completely new now that you're going back and revisiting it?
You get that? What percentage might be things, he was asking what percentage of things might be things that we weren't able to implement back in the day versus new revelations now, new discoveries now.
Yeah,
Yeah, or is there anything that harkens back to what you wanted to do originally?
Well, I'll start with the technology. There's a lot of changes that I'll just be, slightly out of cavern here. The technology required some changes to interface that we wanted to do to make things in some ways more accessible. So those are things that are obvious.
Yeah.
But, from my point of view, I think I forgot all the stuff in the original design that we were going to do and couldn't get to. So it's mostly clean slate.
Yeah, I had forgotten everything pretty much. And I actually had never played the original Riven after we finished it. Partially because I knew too much about it, but also because it took us 3.5 years to make it, and I was pretty burned out at the end of that. So 24 years go by, and then Rand comes around and says, hey, I've got something that I want to talk to you about. And one of the first things he asked was, okay, eye in the sky, if there was anything from the original that you wanted to do, we're going to revisit this. So we just sat down, Rand and Robin and I spent, a couple of months at least, just throwing out crazy ideas, trying to drum up, some enthusiasm for what we had largely forgotten. So during that same time, I actually did play Riven for the first time, 2 decades after the fact. And I was pleasantly surprised. It held up pretty well. And I watched a couple of playthroughs. It actually took me about 6 solid months, I would say, to reload the whole world and the backstory and everything into my head. And then that's when I got to the point where it was like, wait, there's like big holes in here and I don't understand what this is. We never worked this out. We should really think about that. And so the next 2 years, Rand and I just had constant conversations about the backstory, and everything in the game that manifests in the game stems from that backstory. So we've got it all. That backstory is just so much, more detailed now. It makes more sense. So that hopefully there's going to be fewer. So there isn't going to be anything hopefully that's sort of self-contradictory in the game. So we feel really good about that. That's art that is sacrosanct. That we don't want to mess with it, and that we're really excited about this new version. That makes us really excited about this new version because the things that we create, the things that are showing up in the game, absolutely make sense with that better understanding the underlying story. So they're not arbitrary decisions at all.
You guys missed all the stuff that didn't make sense, didn't you? Well, we did. Is that one working? You should interlace. It wouldn't be fair if they have to go to the end of the line. Yeah, yell it. Not live action, but we're learning as we go. So Eric touched on this morning. It's really important. Richard and I talk about this a lot, and that is the uncanny valley is getting shallower and shallower, and the tools available to small studios are becoming more and more available. So we're stepping up our game for Riven like we've never before. Autumn, who Eric and Hannah mentioned, is our in-house animator, and she's really doing amazing work. This was an experiment, and we learn from it, and we move on. And Firmament is better character animation. But what we keep saying is we're going to do our best, but the tools are changing. And so this is not, in case you couldn't tell, this is not a dead project from our point of view. It is a living, breathing, update this as you get more information. And so the characters, we assume, will get better and better over time as tools become available. But when I say, no live action, it's because right now it's not practical. I don't know what the future will hold in, videoing 3D characters move around and look at who are live action. But things are changing so quickly, it's hard to say. But they're going to look. Should have just said that.
Okay, I've been waiting to ask this all day, but are the colors in the Fire Marble Domes going to be any more discernible? Like, is it going to be able to see which color it is? I remember that was so hard for me playing before. They're all like mud colors.
Still going to be color, and they should be easier to navigate. Yes.
So are you in particular, like, for people who can see all colors, or for people who might be colorblind in some areas? Is that
no, just in general, easier to see.
Yes, in general, easier to see.
Awesome.
If you have some forms of color blindness, I don't know that we have a solution yet, because the document said it was colors, and
It shows up on the bottom.
we do have that capability. Yes. That's probably a question for Eric, better than me, but we've talked about it. And I don't think or Robert, but from my understanding, and you can clarify with them if you want, but there's not direct stuff, but so much of their work was meticulously measuring and getting things to the correct scale, looking at things from different angles, and that kind of previs and precise measurement was very useful for us. Saved a lot of time in that regard. So you can imagine if all you're working with is flat screens, because we don't have the original models, they went to a lot of work to do all that stuff, and that alone was a huge help. So I think there are some other smaller models.
That said, though,
yeah,
the fact that we really revisited the whole thing from the ground up meant that there was a lot of stuff that just could not. So I would say mostly we just ended up building it again.
Oh yeah,
from scratch.
Yeah, I think everything in it was built by us.
Robert did adapt some of the models that he had.
Some of the models were adapted
pretty recently.
But you can imagine, even building stuff from scratch, if you've got the bones or the wireframe from somebody who measured it and maybe got it close, being able to structure your stuff around that is a huge help as well. So yeah.
We also at some point excavated some of the original models from Riven, which had largely all been lost.
Yeah.
And Robert was able to plug in, I got the rotating broom, for instance, at least for the gray box version. So all the proportions and everything started off. It was the exact model from original Riven that we brought in.
Go. Yes. Oh. Yes.
Okay.
And did we get the answer to that one? Okay. Starry Expanse. Starry Expanse. Were we close enough, Robert? Okay. Thumbs up from Robert. All right. Okay. Sure. Can you shed any light on CW's backstory from the internet? Man, I have to shift gears. Wow. Well, CW stands for something besides what we said his name was. It was Cecil. I don't remember what the W. I know Cecil. But no, we need to pass on that because I've turned the page in my head, and I need more time for that one. Civil War is where CW came from, but obviously, maybe, or today I learned. I don't know for some of you, yeah.
So, my question is actually about the original Mist. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So, in Atreus's journals, he mentions 2 ages we do not get to see, like Everdunes. So, I was just wondering, is there any possibility, any remote possibility that we might actually get to see them someday?
I'd say yes, especially in lieu of Eric and Hannah's talk this morning, which was mining some of those smaller things that might be intriguing or could be, yeah. And I'd like that as much as anybody. So yeah, I no promises, but the world's big, and boy, actually getting to visit some of those places would be cool. Yeah. Everdunes is cool. Yeah. Right. It's a good question. I would describe my own view as sacred in the way I described it earlier, which is I think I don't want to be dogmatic, and I want to view it in ways that change moving through time. I want to understand what's baby and what's bathwater and what is important and not important. And the other part of that is I was raised very religious. It's taken a lot of years for me to sort through things personally, and also to realize that adding an agenda to something is different than trying to put a little interesting things that resonate with people, truth, something. And when you have an agenda, it kind of stinks. So it kind of has a stench to it. So staying away from agenda is really, really important. No matter what I believe, I don't think that. But making people think about those deeper things is always important. Discussing that. I mean, Firmament there's so many really interesting discussions that could take place at Firmament. And granted, we didn't have a time or the people or the money to do it justice with all the how packed that could be. But if it starts up a discussion with people so they can discuss those things, then I think that's really valuable. So to answer it is, my views feel very personal, but I think they come out in ways that if other people discuss things and think about things, then I love that. And nothing that I believe is dogmatic enough that it would ever get in the way of me loving other people. no matter what they believe. So, yeah. I forgot to repeat that question. That question was, what did you have for lunch?
All right, so in the original Riven, there was a series of obscure Easter egg clickable points that you only knew about by getting obscure hints from a website that gave like riddly poems that when you click them did absolutely nothing initially until you clicked them all, and then it would unlock other Easter eggs that when you clicked in other obscure spots would do cool things, reveal like behind the scenes kind of shots of areas. And I just would really like something like that in the new Riven, because like that really in-depth Easter egg hunt is something that rarely gets done in any games.
There's a guy named Rawa back there who you need to talk to.
Already talked to him.
Yeah, that's just fun. And honestly, the Easter eggs are so much fun. And also, game dev is hard. I know Eric's going, yeah, I wish we had time for Easter eggs. We all love that stuff and try to put little tiny things in. In the original, all we got in was like pictures of our kids. I think Rawa has his initial on every single screen or something. I don't know. But we put in like in the rocks, we like hid pictures of our kids.
Yep,
and
I
then,
loved those.
And then Rawa went nuts with all the secret Easter egg, pull every, slide the lever, push the button. I don't even know. Silly putty, So yes, hopefully. But the real work comes first. Yeah. Buck Chucker. Oh yeah. Sorry, repeat the question. Have I played any Myst-like games, and what are some of my favorites? That's a hard one. I'm trying to think what I played. Hannah always brings these crazy narrative games that are really interesting. I will say this. I'll tell you this, and I've said this before. The game that made the biggest impression on me that wasn't a Myst-like game, but I really, really got into it was Half-Life Alyx.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Richard and I don't play shooters, but
yeah, right. At the start of Riven, as part of Brand trying to coax me into doing this thing again, he dropped off a PC with Half-Life Alyx on it. And yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing. So.
Yeah. The hard part of Half-Life Alyx is like it just sets the bar so high. It's amazing. So anyway, I'll leave it at that one. Yeah. So the question is my brother Robin involved in Riven? Not directly now, but his fingerprints are on this from the stuff he did at the beginning as a, consulting designer with it. So yeah. Was my brother Robin involved? Did I say the question? Did I just repeat it? Did I just not repeat the other questions, but repeated that one twice?
Yes, you did.
Okay, you're welcome.
This is a question for after Riven. Will you guys ever explore Gen's fate?
That's a really good question. The question was... Well, the person who just said that, come sit in this chair and say it every time. The question was, after Riven, will we ever have more information about Gen's fate? And I would think yes. Think of it this way. We're like into this the same way you guys are into this. And so we always think those same questions. And if we think them and you think them, then it's like, yeah, that would be a cool thing. We should do that. But it's time and which one comes next and all those things. But yes. Right? I'll have to find that document to translate.
Uh-huh.
That's how you finish the game.
Yeah, that's true. Which ending? Great question. No consultation because, sorry.
Yeah.
The question was, have we consulted, because of the colonization themes, particularly in the Myst books, I guess, and Riven in particular, have we consulted with indigenous groups who've experienced that and gotten more information? Or will we in Riven or future projects? The first answer is no, because we were stupid back then and you just didn't do that. And the second answer for Riven is we are trying to tread more carefully in what we're doing there. But I don't know, because the story is the same, we probably won't do consultations there for future projects. Absolutely.
I actually have 2 short questions. Well, one of them is actually a little bit long, but okay. About 10 years ago, we had someone in the Cyan chat give us a little bit of a clue for real Myst. Shoot the moon to raise the mast. Would that person who is part of Cyan be willing to give us a little bit of a push in the right direction?
You're supposed to all go, repeat the question. There was a clue in online about shoot the moon to raise the mast, something like that, a long time ago. And can we have another clue about that for real Myst? Anybody want to give another clue about that? Anybody know what that is? Anybody ever hear of that before? I'm looking at Rawa. I might know what that's about, but I'm not sure. So I don't want to answer because I'm not sure. Anybody else? Want to answer that? Sorry. Awesome. That was my favorite because I don't have to repeat the question.
My question for you and you is, if you had to retire in an age in Myst, which one would it be?
Ooh. Thank you. If I had to retire in an age in Myst, what would it be? Man, that's a tough one. I really don't want one. Yeah. Yeah. See, I guess it's Tamana for me then.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah. What about you, Richard?
Oh, no, I really don't have a favorite. I do remember pretty still acutely, like playing Myst for the first time. After I left Disney, I quit Disney and had no idea what I was going to do. Like, no prospects at all. I was looking around trying to find something that I was interested in, and the only thing that I saw during that time was Myst. So, and it was just, there was nothing else like it. It's hard to reconstruct the context now of what was around back then, but it was just this total anomaly, and I just ate the whole thing up and loved spending time in all of those ages. So
I'd pick Channelwood.
Channelwood. I picked a Selenitic maze. Yes, that's all of Riven's base going to be like the Selenitic maze. We don't. Not yet. Repeat the question. You guys are too slow. There's an artifact sitting in front of me that has what we've indicated is Garohevti on it, and we have not revealed any Garohevti before, so this is our first experience with it. We're not sure. We're not even sure if it's canon, because we're not sure how good of a writer Gen was and how much he was winging it, or whether he... he could have pulled just an exact duplicate out of a book that was, like I mentioned, like a boilerplate, because I think that would have been common. Or he could have said, well, I think this might work, and done something like that.
We do have ideas as to how it works, though, and its relationship to the writing of the books, and why thus Gen might have seized on this as a stopgap solution when he was frantically trying to figure out how he was going to close up this gaping rift in the world. So, but all of that is, the answers to those questions will be manifest in this new version of the game, which we consider to be like the most accurate version so far that we've been able to tell.
The question, I'll repeat the question. Of all the kids, who would be Gen's favorite grandchild? Wow. Cirrus. Yeah. I think we'd all agree on that one, right? The family resemblance is there. Yeah.
So you've already mentioned that in the new version of Riven, we're going to be seeing new insights into Gen's activities and influence on the world of Riven. I'm curious how much consideration you've given into getting us insights into authentic Rivenese culture prior to his arrival, and to Riven's ecology and wildlife and that kind
of. Question is, we've mentioned that we're going into more detail in things in Riven, and as our understanding has increased, and will that also apply to the native inhabitants and their islands and their culture and their history as well? Will we get more of that?
We do.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. More of whatever you want. Phony.
The core of what is allowing us to expand in the ways that you saw on these slides upon the world It just has more to do, though, with, or less to do with the Rivenese culture and more to do with Gen and what he did during his approximately 30 years being imprisoned there. So.
Can somebody else answer that? What makes a puzzle a good puzzle? I actually think I can answer this question, but it doesn't mean I always do it right. And that is, if you work on a puzzle and you beat your head against the wall and you're not sure what the answer is, and you grind at it and whatever, and then eventually, for however you decide to get to the answer of that puzzle, whether you cheat or whether it's in the shower the next day or whether you share with a friend or whatever, you get the answer. If you blame us and say that was dumb, then it's a bad puzzle. If you blame yourself and say, well, I should have gotten that, then it's a good puzzle.
Just want to say, I want to thank you two so much. Riven changed my life. I was 10 years old, and I played it with my dad, and it just completely changed my worldview of everything. I started a project a few years ago called Black Void. He was going to make all of Explorable Tay. I want to know, essentially, how much are you considering doing more of Void Age? Riven?
So it's similar to the previous. Yes, previous to the similar, yeah. It was like the other question. Are we going to expand more? How much are we going to expand on the moiety and the Rivenese? How much will we dive into that culture? And I don't want to go into details. We definitely are going into it more, but more to show the difference between Gen and the Rivenese. And we did some of that in OG. But we realized there was a lot more that could be different. So we also realized that the moiety, the Rivenese, were not a homogenous people, that they were unique and they had their own views. And so there's a little bit of that as well sprinkled in. But I don't want to promise too much there, but that's all kind of digging deeper. But yeah.
Yeah, there's always a lot more that we have thought through about those kinds of questions than we are practically able to get to in the game. So
yeah, people keep telling us we have to cut stuff.
It's a little, yeah. It's a little.
Can I be Atris? That's the question. I haven't any memorized. The only ones that always come up are bring me the blank. The blank, my friend. Bring me the blank. The what? No, I know, but it's always something. Yeah. Bring me the fill in the blank.
Hello, I would love to hear from both of you. I'm wondering what's been your personal approach over the years handling copious amounts of feedback and criticism from your audience.
How do we handle critiques and criticism? Well, we weep a lot. I'll speak and then you can, because it's hard. Because you can get a lot of kudos and one stabbing critique, and it just keeps you up at night. It's hard, and I think it's like the yard that you work or the garden you work so hard on, and somebody walks up and goes, "Look at that weed," and you're like, "Oh, come on, can you not see the garden? This was hard." And it does seem like people who maybe don't understand just how hard it is to finish something and get it done. And over the years, you get a little it's a little easier to take, but I was surprised with Firmament even. It's still just, it's hard. And some of it's not that it's wrong. It's just, in a vacuum, it's hard to take that. You try your best to actually not get insulted, though, from my point of view, and see if there's something you can learn from it. And Eric, we've done this in Firmament a lot. I know Eric has said this. It's like, well, okay, I don't disagree with that. It hurts a little, but I don't disagree with that one. Now, that one, you're wrong, and go away. I don't ever want to talk to you, but... I mean, we've had to deal with that in all kinds of projects.
Can't really. Yeah, nobody criticizes them more than I do, though. So.
That's true. Yeah. You think you're a critic? No.
After Disney, that project Aladdin took 4.5 years of my life, and it did not come out the way I wanted it to. So I have never owned a copy of the movie. I haven't seen it since I left Disney. So and then after Riven, Robin and I both left Cyan right at the same time, right when the game came out. And so I just didn't get any feedback at all on that. So
they left that for me. The question was, thank you. I almost beat you to it. The Book of Atris, which is being released in hardback, special Mysterium version, which is cool, by the way. It's actually printed. Mysterium's like printed on the back of the cover. It's going to be there, yeah. Which I think is cool. Anyway, and there have been revisions, and much of what we've talked about here is more than punctuation and corrections. In fact, there's probably still punctuation errors in it. Because we looked at it the same way we've looked at how we started this conversation, which is, what have we learned over the years? What has further revelation and discoveries taught us? How can we correct little things? And we limited it to small things, but you guys will see some of those little things. By the way, you'll be the first to see those things. The Mysterium versions of the book, the first versions that they're printed, the only ones that we're printing first are going to be the Mysterium ones. We have the one sample you saw was like one of. We're printing the Mysterium versions, and then later we'll print, for the general public, maybe someday. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah.
I was wondering, one thing that I think is really cool about the Myst games and other ones like Abduction and Firmament and stuff is how they really do a good job of pulling in the player and making them feel like they're not just a person playing a game, but like actually a part of the experience. Are there any conscious decisions that you guys make to encourage that? Because as a game developer myself, I'd like to try and get that kind of experience in my projects.
Well, I mean, so the question is, the games we make kind of pull you into the world. And are there conscious decisions we make to do that? And the only thing I would say about it is I'm drawn into worlds by the reality of the worlds. That's why I was drawn into Lord of the Rings. That's why I'm drawn into the Star Wars world. It feels real. And we go into the design thinking that that's
just it. To me, to us, this happened, 25 years ago. The original, by the end of it, I said over and over again, like, we never thought of it as a game. It was not a game. It's a real place. It's a real, very real place in my head. And so whenever we get to anything, to design anything, to sit down, say, well, we're standing here in this real place. What would happen? What would actually happen?
Thank you.
That's hard, by the way, but it also is really fulfilling when you can pull it off. And I think Riven pulls it off more than anything we've ever done. Yeah. The question was, is there any more news on the Book of Merum? No. We've talked about it. And we, at some point it's going to come, but I don't have any more news at this time. Yeah, sorry. We talked about it with various people, by the way. It's not like it's, but it's still that whole, Rawa would describe it as the back burner. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Rawa.
That's right.
You want to come up here and answer questions?
Don't forget to repeat the question. I have 12 questions, 3 poems, and a soliloquy. I just want to say I've been really big fans of yours since 1992. And can I work for Cyan?
That guy. We try to channel Rawa in Firmament. He wasn't as involved, much to all our chagrins, but we try and channel him. It's like, what would Rawa do? Should have worn little bracelets. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, one of the things that Rawa always did was, okay, what's the first state of the game? When you get into the game and you start playing, well, that door's open, but it only gets locked this way, then there must be a way to lock it the other way because it's locked. And, figuring out all those things at the initial state had to be set up that way. And if it did, then what needed to be done to make it that way? And that's another one of those thinking it's real, thinking it's a real place. That all helps. It's cool. You're doing good over there. You should be up here. I said Rawa should be up here, and he said my only answer would be I don't remember. It would be a good answer for me most of the time. Atris Miller. You guys are way too easy. The question is, who starred in Star Wars? It was, why are there no last names and can Atris have a last name? So, sure. I don't know why they didn't have last names. Cher, Bono, Atris. Atris.
Okay, I've got a very important question. What is your favorite type of cheese?
Oh, Jarlsberg.
Okay.
Anyone else like Jarlsberg? Yeah, what? Oh, what's the question? Where have you visited in Switzerland? What's your favorite kind of cheese? I said Jarlsberg. It's like Swiss cheese, right? Isn't it just Swiss cheese? But it's really good, and I get it at Costco. Big chunks of it, you know? Anyone? Yeah. So good. Okay. Hey. Yes. Yep. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Inspired. He was inspired by Osmo, and weren't we all? And especially the dog scared him. And where did the music come from? Because it's pretty eclectic music. Honestly, I think it was just all of Osmo feels like experimenting with the manhole and realizing you could put these things together and then doing it better in a cool way. And that included music, and we had music tools that were just becoming available, and we could compose our own stuff. And then we had money to put like live instruments in with it in the studio, which was a first for us. And it just kind of had a life of its own, which a lot of our stuff does. But I would agree with you on Osmo. I know the dog part in there was inspired by the family. What was it called? The Family Dog. There was like a cartoon years and years ago, like an animated series called The Family Dog, and I think it was inspired by that. But yeah, and Osmo continues to live. You know, we keep trying to update that as well. So yeah, thanks.
Instead of asking will there be a Riven Kickstarter, I'll just say whatever slider you want. Just shut up and take my money. My question is, this has had huge names like Peter Gabriel, Brad Dourif, tons of others. Now that you're Rand Miller. Now that you're shifting your
No, do not clap at that.
So now that you're more or less, it sounds like decidedly shifting into away from live action video. I don't think I'm the only person in the Myst fan community who's also in the voice acting community. Are you ever potentially doing projects where you might have open auditions for something like that?
I would think yes. Question was, oh man, I can't come up with a clever one fast enough. Given our history of working with other people outside, including some famous people like Brad Dourif and Peter Gabriel for music and blah, 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 it seems like it shifted away from that. Voice acting and live action. We might entertain auditions for voice actors in the future, or even live action acting in the future, I'm assuming as well. And I would say yes. Without having any specifics. I know that the tools for those things, well, we don't want to get into all that. Anyway, yes, the answer is yes. It's having voice actors at the very least is a pretty large component of what we do, and we don't want to lose that. So, yeah. Thank you. Yes. right now. I never lose hope, but we're in a lull. Yes.
Question. So the Book of Dunny, when I started reading that, the opening was so great. It was just, it building up, and then it kind of got icky and weird. So I'm usually kind of anti-retconning, outside, but in Cavern, since you're doing more discoveries of Dunny, maybe is it possible you could find that second part was more of myth and fable, and the real story was something else? Have a book based on that. I mean, have a book or game based on that.
Thank you. I feel like I should just answer it now. He's pointing out some things that we all might feel about the Book of Dunny, including myself. So it's a little, it's not our best translation work. It starts strong. It's got some weird stuff at the end. It was an interesting process doing the Book of Dunny, because there was stuff in there early on that we were like, no, you can't even put that in there. You remember that, Rawa? And it was like, we got to chop out that whole chapter or 2 chapters, and it had to be massaged here and here to make it work. And it just messed things up, and it's not great. So yes, maybe someday after the Book of Meram, we can come back and figure out where our translations went wrong with the Book of Dunny. Yeah. Started out strong, though. You're right. Now, I know you're asking me to repeat the question, but you all heard it. Okay, so repeat the question. Where there'll be a real-life mist escape room. I'd love that. There's a great escape room, by the way, in Spokane. I don't know if you get, it seems like it was here last Mysterium, right? It had just opened. It's really cool. I've done a couple of their rooms, and we talked with the owner and really smart guy who puts all those things together. He's been in the industry a while. Anyway, so we have no qualms about doing that. It would be a blast. I would love my whole house to look like a mist escape room. Wouldn't that be awesome? Meow Wolf. Oh, how many people love Meow Wolf? That's like, to me, that's like Cosmic Cosmo in real life, Yeah. Nice. You fit right in. Yeah.
So you've often described Myst as being an experiment, but I always kind of wondered, did you have any idea what kind of a positive impact it was going to have on so many people in the course of that experiment?
No. Do you want to go out to dinner with me?
So is it yes? Is it no?
The question is, Myst was experimental. Did you have any kind of indication of the positive influence it was going to have on people? It's like, absolutely no way. You understand that coming from one direction, that things you're influenced by, like Star Wars and Tolkien and whatever, Dune, right? You're like, wow, this inspired me to do what I'm doing. I just never thought, and I don't think anybody really thinks this as they're working on stuff, that it's you're going to be able to do that forward. It was a total surprise, and it's one of the most humbling and rewarding things that possibly could come out of this work we do. The fact that you guys are inspired to do really cool things and do them well is like mind-blowingly cool for a creative like us or anybody. So thank you guys.
Give us a chance.
Yeah.
Will the journals in Riven reflect all the new information that we've been able to glean from what actually happened, backstory? And yes, actually, I'm in the process of working on Gen's journals right now, and they are going to be substantially larger, which is kind of an issue. like how long do we want to make these? Because we really do have a lot that could be put in there. So we'll see, but they're definitely going to be at least 1.5 times more material. So.
Wait, what? No. Finish him up. Finish up who's in there. No more people allowed, but we'll finish up who's there. How about that? That seems so unfair. Like, you waited all this time. No. You're very, very polite to consider us, but we got to go with who's here.
Catherine's journal in Riven was credited to a writer named Mary Anderson. I have not been able to find any other information. Who is Mary Anderson?
Catherine's journal in Riven was credited to Mary Anderson. Are you sure that was Riven? I'm not sure. I gotta look that up.
Bad that I couldn't find the answer myself.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, are you sure that was Riven, or was it?
It was Riven.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at the credits in the OG and see.
Yes, the credits say that I think most of the journals are written by Robin and Richard, and then it says Catherine's journal by Mary Anderson.
Maybe just the font?
You mean?
Could have been the font. Which, by the way, the little print was in Catherine's handwriting.
I mean, we wrote all of the words, the material, but I can't recall exactly the handwritten font. That's maybe what that was referring to.
Maybe. It could have been the font, because it was definitely, But I don't know who that is.
Yeah,
unfortunately. I'm really filtering back, trying to process through the gray hairs, and nothing comes to mind. So, good question. Now I'm curious.
Yeah.
The question is, Mist ends in the same place that Riven begins. Will the new Riven kind of directly connect to the two together? Yes and no. Directly is an interesting word. It means we are taking into account where Mist ended, but I don't know that it'll be exact, because Riven may have more precise information about that area as well.
This is a question for both of you. What do you think makes for an engaging narrative in video games?
What do we think makes for an engaging narrative in the games?
Hey, I stumped you.
It's hard to say, because again, for me, he's my favorite character, and he's a real person. So at some point, it becomes this thing outside of yourself. So all you're doing is getting to know this person a little better, asking questions about them, learning more about their history. Just like any other human being, I think, like, the more you know about somebody, the more interesting they become. So it's that's all we're doing, really, with this. It's not like we're sitting back and trying to, or we have these principles for making an engaging narrative that we're employing. It's really just an exploration of these characters and finding the human sides to them that feel real.
Yeah, it's to take that and expand on it. Yes, and that reality means is reflected in life in that there are very few monsters, and people are driven by their history. And when you build that history, you understand sometimes, or when you understand that history, you understand why a person is a certain way, and you judge them less, even though they might do terrible things. And so it's that to me makes really intriguing narrative, but it's for the same reason in that it makes it feel real, and we're used to that, and those things come to life. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be easy to make Gen a one-dimensional bad guy, but he's not. And the more that we find out about him, the more interesting he becomes, and the more I actually sort of weirdly kind of like him too. So
and that's great.
Somebody yelled praise Gan. Only one person. Praise Gan.
Thank you.
I love, no, that was just such a classic moment. It was like the whole room could have erupted in praise Gan, but it was like, praise Gan. Like, it was the perfect moment, and it was just like in kind of this small voice. It's just awesome. That was great. Good question.
And can you repeat?
Want me to repeat it? You're doing Riven in real time. How does that change things up a bit? Because you can look anywhere and go anywhere, and things have got to be adjusted, but you doing things purposely? What feeds the other? Is that a loose summary-ish? It's a great question.
Yeah, it really is. In the original game, because we knew it was going to be these still shots, we could compose everything perfectly for those, right where that camera, the player was going to be exactly. And we even could cheat things, and we did a lot. Not that, you would notice, but our art lead, Robert Krebs, encountered this, has encountered this many times, like, to his,
depression.
But for me, it's a very difficult problem, because now the player can look anywhere, and how do you compose for that? How do you control that at all? And so a lot of the principles of design they're still in play, but we have to go further, because everything has to look good in 3D. It's now what we could compose for a still frame is now more like sculpture. And I keep saying that, like, what makes for a good sculpture is something that looks good from every angle. So that's a lot of work. You can make it look great from the front, but now you have to go over to the side and this side and from behind and then check the 3/4 angles. So it's a lot more work, and it's really quite a challenge. Yeah.
It affects the aesthetics and the UI and the placement of things. So yeah, it's a great question, and you're gonna love it.
Hi. Didn't hear anybody ask this yet, but what's the status on Cyan Ventures, upcoming stuff, future like Clockwinder?
What's the future? What's the status on Cyan Ventures? Cyan Ventures is always just kind of like a fun side thing because we don't really have that much money to put into other things, but there's also people who have less money than us that is fun to help them with either money or assets. We're good at a few things, like putting things on other platforms. We've gotten a real knack at that, and QA we're pretty good at when we've got time, and so, but we're very picky and choosy. Just as we grow, so it's not something we feel forced into, but if the right thing arises, we look at it. We've been so busy lately that it's definitely been, as Robin would say, the back burner. So, yeah, hasn't been our focus, and yeah, we'll see. The question is there any possibility of getting more information about the Dunny civilization and all, there's a lot there. All I can say is there are buckets of information about it. One of the thoughts we've always entertained and I would love to do is, the Dorling Kinserly, book of Dunny that's got like cool drawings and details of all kinds of stuff. Would love to. It's how we manifest that information that is always the biggest question. Is it a new game? Is it a book? Is it TV or movie? But there's plenty of information to get out at some point somehow. We'd love to. Yeah. Wow. We wrapped it up.
Okay, so, Drea, I need to borrow you. Just a minute. Brad, I need you to see here. So I'm going to tell a quick story. With Mysterium, we like to theme things a little bit. And this year's theme has been 30 Years of Mist. It's been fabulous. But some of you all have noticed that we have dropped in an extra theme. Some of y'all have asked me, what is with the watermelon? Well, in 2017, we were in a late night staff meeting, and we were discussing, don't ask me how it came to be, Rand's love affair with the Birkenstocks. The man loves sandals, they're comfortable, it's cool. So, for some bizarre reason, I decided to buy him a pair of Birken socks. They were socks that had a sandal print on them. And they lived in my house for 2 years. And in 2019, we brought them to Mysterium, and the whole committee signed them. And then I came up here on stage, and my dear friend Tanith, who is sadly not here, and I presented them to Rhea. You know where this is going. It was a very unique gift. This one probably tops it. So, and then 2020 happened, and, we're at home, and, well, my dear friend Tanith calls me up, and he says, Kelly, I'm sending something to your house. And I was like, okay, that sounds fine. And he goes, you remember the thing with the socks and Rand? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I know it's going to be a bit before we're back in Spokane. Hang on to this until we're back there. And then get up on stage and give it to Rand. And I was like, okay. About a week later, this packet showed up at my door. I was like, all right. And I opened it up and went, oh, God. Now, watermelon. Why did I mention watermelon? I enjoy watermelon. It's round, cut it in half. It's already bowl-shaped. Just hand me a spoon. Nom. Mom likes to cut it into wedges. It's already got handles down the hatch. And then there's Rand. For some reason only known to the gods, the man slices his watermelon, puts it on a plate, and eats with a knife and a fork. Ran, that's how we eat steak. That's how you eat steak.
Slices. When you eat it, it's sure the first bite's great, but then you work your way.
That's why the only way I trash.
Okay, so I present to you what Tanith bought and has been living in my house for 3 years.
Yeah, I think I'm supposed to open this.
Yes, you are. Little prezi. Oh, I even have a... Oh, dear.
Yeah, let me do the water.
So it'd be easy to get to know.
Merry Christmas.
Even though it's cut the wrong way.
I sure hope Tanith is watching. It is an extreme... It's from a place called Squishable. And if you can't tell, that is the fluffiest and softest and squishable little marshmallow. Marshmallow. Anyway. It is. Extremely. Enjoy. It's not signed. No. Okay. Y'all, thank you, Rion, for opening y'all's home. This was wonderful. First timers, raise your hand.
That comedy.
That's how many first timers we had.
Wow, mind blown.
Right?
You're like,
right?
Welcome first time?
Yes.